All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Identifying Sparrows, a collaborative program with Loudoun Wildlife Conservancy and Loudoun County Public Library. I'm Lorraine Moffa, Programming Coordinator for the library, and I'm going to hand the program over to Joe Coleman, who will introduce our presenter, Larry Meade. Take it away, Joe.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before I introduce our speaker, I do want to thank our partner, the Loudoun County Public Library, for helping us present this program and tell you a little bit about the Loudoun Wildlife Conservancy. First, I do want to say that the library is an incredible resource for information, for books, for programs. If you visit its website, you'll get an inkling of how much they offer. And if you drill into their event calendar for just one day, you will see an incredibly wide choice of possibilities. The Loudoun Wildlife Conservancy's mission is to protect, preserve, and restore wildlife habitat. The reason why Loudoun Wildlife does this is the greatest threat to wildlife worldwide is the loss of habitat. We believe that wildlife and the natural world enhances and enriches our quality of life, and that we have a responsibility to ensure that wildlife continues to thrive. We work in 4 different areas: education, scientific monitoring, habitat restoration, and conservation advocacy. While we have some paid staff, we are a volunteer-driven organization, and almost everything we offer, most of which is free, are managed by volunteers. In the area of education, besides programs like this one and many kinds of field trips throughout the county, we have a quarterly newsletter, the Habitat Herald, and a highly informative website. Scientific monitoring, one of the other areas we work in. We believe everything we do should be based on sound science. Because of that, we have organized and or participate in several scientific programs, stream monitoring, several citizen science projects such as the annual Christmas bird count and the annual summer butterfly count. And almost every one of our numerous bird walks records its observations on eBird. Habitat restoration is another area we work in. We work with others to protect and restore habitats throughout the county. We encourage homeowners to plant and protect native trees, shrubs, and other plants, because that's what our wildlife needs to thrive. Any habitat that we can preserve or convince others to preserve doesn't only save wildlife, though, it also helps mitigate climate change. We ourselves own and protect and steward the J.K. Black Oak Wildlife Sanctuary. It's an 89-acre parcel in the Luckett's area that contains a globally rare wetlands and is home to numerous amphibians, 2 kinds of fairy shrimp, and a lot of other wildlife. We also practice conservation advocacy. We encourage our local government and local businesses to practice and implement policies that protect, benefit, and enhance wildlife habitat. We were the lead organization in the establishment of the Banshee Reeks Nature Preserve 25 years ago. And one of our part-time employees is a conservation advocate who works with local government and our volunteers to protect the county's remaining valuable natural resources. If you aren't already a member, please become one and help us protect and preserve wildlife. If you want to know more about us first, please visit our website. It is a wealth of information. And on to our speaker now, the reason why you're really here tonight. Tonight's speaker, Larry Meade, is the president of the Northern Virginia Bird Club, as well as an active member of many other groups, including Loudoun Wildlife. He has birded all over the U.S. and leads numerous bird walks in the area. He's a great photographer and is rarely in the field, whether it's a bird walk or a butterfly survey, without his camera. Larry, would you please tell us about sparrows?
Why, yes, Joe, I will. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to focus on what it says here, sparrows and other little brown jobs. So mostly be talking about perching birds that we can find basically late fall and winter in our region, and a couple, maybe not quite in our region, but nearby. So the one you're looking at right now, is a white crowned sparrow. By the way, all of these photographs are ones I've taken, with the exception of two, and I'll tell you which ones those are. So this is a white crowned sparrow. And little brown jobs, if you're curious, where that's a British expression because a lot of their birds are brown and hard to tell apart, so they call them little brown jobs. So I kind of appropriated that moniker for this program. So let's just get started. So first one, whoops, why is it not? It's not advancing. Hold on. Click.
Have it on
Okay.
slideshow.
Yeah, it's not advancing. Hold
Start
on.
with the first one.
There it is. I got it.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, some birds are easy to identify. You probably all know this is a red-winged blackbird, right? It's got the big epaulets. This is one of the perching birds I mentioned. Other ones, not so easy. This, believe it or not, many of you might know, but this is also a red-winged blackbird, only this one is a female. The one thing you need to look at when identifying birds, look at the shape. It's the same. It's got the same shape body, the same tail length. So that was one thing that might make you think they're the same species of bird. But this is a species that has really major what they call sexual dimorphism. The male and female are very different. And you can see this female with the big white eyebrow, heavy streaking. Looks like it's field stripping a dragonfly, probably a Needham skimmer. So I took this at Huntley Meadows. So anyway, as we're saying, when you're identifying birds, there's a lot of things you want to consider. A lot of people really focus on the color, especially beginning birders, but that's not always the best thing to look at. I mean, it is something to consider, but you also got to consider frequency and distribution. When I was a pretty intermediate birder, I'd say I did a trip with John Dunn, who is the one who he's a very like a world famous birder. He did the National Geographic Guide and a lot of other things. He would just pound this frequency and distribution. How often is the bird where you are, and how are they in your area at all? So that's something to think about. Is the bird here that you're trying to identify? If you think it's something else, think about where you're seeing it, what habitat you're seeing it in. Are you looking in a wetland? Are you in the forest? Where do these birds hang out? Think about that. What time of year is it? Is this a summer bird or a winter bird? So I like to say you can divide birds into four categories. Some of them are always here, like cardinals, chickadees, titmice, they're always here. Other ones are only here in the breeding time, which would be, spring and summer, maybe early fall before they migrate. That would be certain of the warblers, things like indigo buntings, chats, things like that. And then you got ones that are here only in the winter, which would be some of the sparrows I'm going to show you, a lot of the ducks, waterfowl. And then you got ones that we only see in migration, which would be when they pass through in the spring or fall. Most of them have moved through by this time. Some of them are still coming. So the birds I'm going to show you are ones that you would see in the winter, late fall, winter. Okay, and then I did mention there are field marks, the color and the streaking, which is the visual thing. Another thing, the behavior of the birds. What are they doing? Like I'll show you a brown creeper later. They climb up and down the trees. They're always on the side of a tree. So if you see a bird doing that, a little brown thing, that's probably a brown creeper, right? Listen for their vocalizations. They have chips and they have songs. If you can learn those, that will help you find the bird. That's even more important in the spring, but it also applies at this time of year too, and in the winter. Certain the birds do have, especially chips of the sparrow, something to learn. Okay. So I'll show you this real quick. There won't be a quiz, but here's Basically, I will refer to some of these this terminology at times. So we have the crown. The first bird I showed you in the title slide was a white crown sparrow. So you can see it had white on the crown here. You can see my mouse, I hope. So yeah, we'll talk about wing bars. We'll talk about the rump. Certain birds have certain color, like a yellow rumped warbler, right? That's where the yellow is. And leg color can also be something to think about. And then the head, there's a crown stripe, that eyebrow stripe. This is something important in sparrows, this eye line. So I'll talk about the eye line here. Certain ones have that. Eye ring, that can also be something to look at, like this ruby crown kinglet. The eye ring, something to really focus on. I always say, whatever field mark works for you, because sometimes you only see these birds for a few seconds. And if you can really zoom in on a field mark that works for you, that will really help you identify the bird. Like when I see a ruby crown kinglet, that eye ring really pops. That's one of the first things I'll see. So, oh, ruby crown kinglet, you know. I'll try to get a better look to kind of confirm what I saw. So it's kind of a little trick. Certain other people might have something else they want to look at. To whatever kind of works, registers in your brain is the best field mark for you. All right, well, let's get started. Here's a picture I took when I first started birding. So some of these are with different cameras. This is an older camera, but I call this one the angry song sparrow. He's just, he seems like he's really not happy with me, staring me down there. So one thing to look at for song sparrows, they have this long tail, heavy streaking on the breast, strongly marked face. You can see that. Now I have another picture of a song sparrow here. You can check it out. See again, the really heavy streaking on the breast, the long tail. This is a fairly not as big as some of the sparrows, but I'd say it's a pretty good sized sparrow. It's got this dull colored beak. You can see it there. It's kind of grayish. So fairly heavy beak. This is going to be one of your most common sparrows. They are also around in the summer, but they come in large numbers in the winter. So you'll see a lot of these. Here's another one. Okay, this is something that one of the song sparrows don't really change based on the season, but this is a sparrow that really does change. This is a chipping sparrow, and maybe you've seen these. They have this really brilliant rufous colored cap here, right? And the dark eye line here. You can see that. But that's spring. Look how they look now. This is the same bird. They don't have that. Very much dull looking. But look what's still there. The bill, right? This pink bill and this dark eye line here. Okay? So that's something you really want to check out, you really want to see, because that stays. Even though the bird's a lot more dull looking than its vibrant spring look, it still has that eye line. And this is a fairly small sparrow, and they'll often be in little flocks. They're not as common in the winter, but with climate change, they're starting to become more common in the winter in Loudoun County. So in early spring, they're very common. They come in big numbers, but they're starting. I see them Christmas bird counts not fairly often, but not anywhere near as common as the other birds. And they'll often be on the ground, sculling around looking for. That's another thing I talked about, their behavior. They're often staying low and looking and feeding on the ground. Okay. Another one to look at. This is a really cute little guy. This is a field sparrow. They are here in the summer. They do breed here, but they're also here in the winter. And a thing to look at here is this. They got the big eye ring, no streaking on the breast, very plain breast, little teeny pink bill, and they do have wing bars here, and they have this eye line here. You can see here's another one. He's a little more clear. So again, the big eye ring. To me, they look like and this is also a fairly small sparrow. This one, to me, it looks like he's got like a blank expression on his face, like he's sort of surprised. That's always the impression I get with these guys. So yeah, and they don't sing as much in the winter, but when the spring, when you hear them in the summer when they're breeding, their song sounds like a ping pong ball bouncing down the stairs. It kind of speeds up as it goes. Do, 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 do. So it's like do 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 do. So you've probably heard it. As the name implies, they are often found in fields. So they're going to be more open areas, not so much hanging out in the woods. So that's whereas the song sparrows I mentioned, they'll be in suburban areas, around your house as often as not. Also, chipping sparrows, they could be anywhere, but they tend to like edges of woods and things like that, I've found. But you could find them in parks too. So, okay, here's the one. This is actually the same guy that was on the title slide, a little bit different angle. But this is an adult white-crowned sparrow, one of my favorites. And one thing to look for here, obviously the big white crown, right? That's pretty clear. Also, big bill, pinkish bill, very big. Here's another one you can see. Compare different. This is a different bird. I got two pictures. So it's a pretty big sparrow. It's robust. It's got this really clear breast, no streaking. With sparrow ID, you really want to think about the streaking, whether they have streaking or not. This one's do not. And that white crown is pretty clear. Really stands out on this guy too. All right, but guess what? Also a white crowned sparrow, but this one is immature. The immature ones, here's another picture of one. These guys, the immature ones, do not have the white crown yet. They've got, it's like I call that almost a brown crown or a kind of russet crown, right? But they have the same wing bars. They have the same clear breast, the same bill. See, the bill is the same. If you look here, see the bill there and the bill there, they're the same. So sometimes people get confused, says, oh, it doesn't have a white crown. Yeah, but it's still a white crowned sparrow. And again, and these guys are going to be more in rural areas. I live in Fairfax County. I don't see them. It's really only one or two places where they're regular. But out in Loudoun County, they're a lot more common. You'll see them. But I guess with development becoming less common, possibly. I don't know. I'd have to see the data. But they're out there in along. You can see them along the road by the farms. I've seen them some of the parks out there. So. Okay, this actually is a white-throated sparrow. Also has the white, but this one has the white throat. See, the white crown does not have the white throat. This is actually one of my favorite photos because I got paid for it. I had it on my Flickr account. I just took this through a window. I was there at somebody's house to see a varied thrush, which is very rare in the East. And I just kind of popped this on my Flickr account, and somebody from a book said they wanted to use the photo, and then they said they'd pay me $150 for it. I said, okay, sign me up. So it's in a book called Secrets to Backyard Birding Success. So there you go. Like one of my claims to fame, right? So that is a white-throated sparrow with the white stripe. But look. This is also a white-throated sparrow. Do you see the difference? Right here. This one has tan. This is my backyard during a blizzard we had once. So look, this one has a tan stripe. This one has a bright white stripe. It's also got this area here we call the lore, so they have yellow lores there. Can't always see that, but this one is a very interesting, very interesting natural history with these guys. The white ones, I think it's like 90% of the time breed with the tan ones. It's almost like they almost like have four different species. So you got the male whites and the male tans. You got the female tans and the female whites, but they only breed with each other. The other morph usually most of the time, and they have different personalities. Maybe that's why it keeps it in balance. The ones with the white stripes are more aggressive, and they're more just kind of I don't want to call them wild, but they're not as dependable. The ones with the tan stripes are more dependable and better at nurturing. So, but you want the wild ones, I guess, to help defend the territory, and you want the nurturing ones to help at home. So I guess it's a good balance. But yeah, there was a woman who studied this for decades and really nailed this dynamic down. It's pretty interesting. And this one's very common. This is probably the most common sparrow in the winter. They have a song that sounds like "Poor Sam Peabody, Peabody," or "Oh Canada," depending on your opinion. I think it's "Poor Sam Peabody, Peabody" personally. But yeah, so you'll see a lot of these in woods, just kind of everywhere. There are a lot of them around, and they're very vocal. They're also very pishable. If you pish them, which is when you go, psh, 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 they'll come in, hop into you, and check you out. So it doesn't bother them too much. All right. So here's another one. Now this one people confuse with the song sparrow, but if you compare it, this one, here's another one here. You can see they have a less, much finer streaks on the breast, also a bit smaller, not as long a tail. And you can see on this one, you can really see this yellow on the face, the lores here, very yellow. That stands out some. And these, this is an old picture, not quite as sharp, but you can see this one's a newer one. But you can see these fine streaks. You can see the pattern here on the wings, the face, the smaller bill than the song sparrow has. So a little practice, you can separate them. Also, the behavior, they tend to perch up, and again, these are going to be more in open areas, fields, things like that. So okay, here's another one. This is another common one. This is a swamp sparrow. As the name implies, they're often in wetlands, the marshes. So this one, again, like I said, pretty common. But look at how dark it is. This is really how dark they are. So they have a really kind of dark face, a little crest there. Even the body back here is pretty rufous, pretty dark. So it just gives an overall impression of a grayish, kind of dark reddish bird. And here's one taking a bath. You can again see the crest that sticks up sometimes. Again, looking even darker because he's wet, or it's wet. You'll find these any kind of wetland. Sometimes there'll be other places too. I found these are not as fishable. They're smarter. They don't get fooled by you trying to summon them. Here's one you've all seen, I'm sure, the dark-eyed junco, sometimes called snowbirds. These are unmistakable. They're black with the white belly, the bill. So I haven't seen one yet, but I think they're will arrive shortly. But interesting enough, if you go into the mountains like Skyline Drive in the summer, you'll see them up there. They actually breed up there. So yeah, and I'm not sure if those come down the mountain or stay up there in the winter. I'm not sure what they do. But here's another photo of them I like. Remember I said they are snowbirds, so here they are, like little Christmas ornaments, I thought, on this, guess that's a spruce, something like that. But yeah, they're just all arranged there. And these guys will often be in flocks. So like this one. So if you see one, you'll see more. And you can see their little bills and their lily white bellies and their dark mantle. So these are pretty unmistakable. All right, here's one. This is a bigger sparrow. This is a fox sparrow. This is one of my favorites. They got this unmistakable rufous coloring, pretty red, like that's why they're called fox sparrows. And this streaking here on the breast. Here's another photo of another one. See this really heavy. It's not really streaking. It's more patchy, you'd say almost. So not like lines like the song sparrow, but this one's also pretty unmistakable. Big and red. Got a dark gray, kind of grayish head. You can see that, see, and heavy bill. So, and they also have an interesting. They don't sing often, but sometimes you'll hear them. They have a nice song too. So that's one of my favorites. I like that one. All right, here's another one. This one is occasionally seen in the winter. Not I have seen one on a Christmas bird count before. This is a Lincoln sparrow, very heavy streaking on the side, grayish head again, but they have this eye line here. You can see it here too. This is another one. Yeah, I don't have a super great picture of a Lincoln's, but these are okay. You can at least see the field marks. See this heavy streaking on the side, that eye line. And they're in now, so this is a good time to see a Lincoln sparrow. If you want to check those out. But again, fairly dark sparrow, but the streaking is just pretty much on the side here, not the heavy streaking like a song sparrow has. Okay. Now this one is American tree sparrow. These are really winter only. And okay, this is not my photo. I wish this was my photo, but this really shows the field marks. So this is when you have a long distance photo, but you can still see this dot on the breast. That's really distinctive. And then this brownish eye line here. So you can see that in both photos, and the wing bars here. So also it has a two-tone bill. That's something you could, if you get a good photo or a good look, you can see there's two tones on the bill, and this brown eye line here, and the cap. So this is an American tree sparrow, and there are don't see a lot of them, but when you see one, you're excited because they're very cute and fairly rare. So I'd say uncommon, not rare, but there are places to see them. All right. This one is a sparrow, believe it or not. This is an eastern towhee. And we do get them in the winter too. There are more in the breeding times, but there are some in the winter. You've probably heard them. They have that distinctive whip, whip. And then in the spring, they'll sing the drink your tea song. So this is another one that has sexual dimorphism. This is the male with the dark rufous and black. But here's the female. They also similar pattern, but brown head instead of black. See, this one's black, and this one's browner. So they're around. They are, like I said, they are considered sparrows, believe it or not. All right, here's another one. This is one I just like the photo. I took this at Point Lookout, Maryland. I heard there were snow buntings there, so I had to go see one. You will see them sometimes in agricultural fields in Loudoun County. They're especially western Loudoun. They will appear at times. But this one was, like I said, Point Lookout, which is the extreme southern part of Maryland, but on this side of the Bay Bridge. And they're I think they're technically a sparrow too. So very white. Yeah, here's now this is that we call these sparrows, these house sparrows, but they're actually old world sparrows because they're not native, and they were brought over in the 19th century, basically to eat the seeds and things out of the horse poop, apparently. So, but now they're just everywhere. They're really weaver birds. And if you do bluebird trails, you don't like these guys because they will kill bluebirds. So, since they are not native, they're actually considered a pest technically. So you can take their eggs or whatever you need to. But they're still a nice looking bird. Despite that, this is a female. Again, they have a pretty different look, sexual dimorphism. All right. So now this is something you can find online. This is sparrow heads. So this really tells you, shows you the different looks of all the sparrows. So remember I mentioned the chipping sparrow has the dark eye line, right? Tree sparrow has the brownish eye line. And it shows you the bills too. See the two-tone bill on the American tree sparrow. Here's the field sparrow, little bill with that, see? So all the things, here's the Savannah with the yellow lore and the stripy head, right? Little, right? Fox, reddish head. So yeah, this is really a nice reference. And then we have some others. Grasshopper sparrows are found in Loudoun County, but not in the winter. They migrate out of here, but they're pretty common breeders. Uh, you'll find them at a lot of different places and open fields. And then some others that we don't see often. Harris's sparrow, I've only seen once in Virginia, once in Maryland. But I think this is a pretty good reference. You can find this online. It's the American Birding Association. Okay. Now I'll get into some other birds that are not sparrows, but other perching type birds that someone might confuse with a sparrow. Right? Here's one. I actually just took this photo the other week and a half ago when we were at the Northern Virginia Bird Club. We had a trip with Herco, your fabulous Herco, you all know, I'm sure. We went to Cape May and we saw probably well over 1,000 of these yellow-rumped warblers. And I thought this guy, there were several drinking at a water fountain. So a bird bath, I guess, actually. And this guy posed for me nicely. So these are warblers. They've got, see, it doesn't have the sparrow bill. It's got a little thin warbler bill here, right? And you can see the yellow rump here and the yellow on the side here and the streaking. So they're all over the place. It's kind of interesting. There's probably a good number of them around right now. When I was did a bird walk on Saturday, there were a bunch of them. But sometimes they hang around the winter, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they sort of disappear. I don't know if it's the weather or the food supply, but if you go to the coast, there's always a lot of them there. If you go to Chincoteague in the winter, they're all over the place, or Cape May, anywhere like that. But it seems to vary year to year if we have a lot in our area. But we'll see. Here's another one. Okay. You probably know this one, the Carolina chickadee. I mentioned that one. So that's another one. And they're usually going to be up in the trees. And by the way, do your eBird reviewer a favor. Chickadees we are seeing are not black-capped chickadees unless you're way in the west. Even far western Loudoun, you're probably still going to have Carolina chickadees, almost certainly, in fact. So these are Carolina chickadees we have in our area. Here's the tufted titmouse. This is another one that stays all year. And both the chickadee and the titmouse, they're really good at caching food. So they have a lot of really ingenious survival strategies to survive the cold weather. And you can see this guy, sometimes you'll say, oh, he looks big. Well, he's puffed up for the cold weather. Bird down, it's really warm because birds, they live in their feathers. So he's comfortable, believe it or not. He's all puffed up and he's like he's wearing his heavy winter coat there. He's good. Now, if it's really, really cold, certain birds like bluebirds will go and they can use your bluebird house if you have a bluebird trail, and they'll all huddle together and stay very warm in there. So these guys, one thing interesting about chickadees and titmice is when there's a mixed foraging flock, especially during migration, they're kind of like the local guides, and especially the chickadees, because the chickadees and titmice are very they're aware of the local area, like where the food is, but also they're very good at looking out for predators. The chickadees have different calls. They'll call out when there's danger, and the more D's they have when they call out, the more danger they perceive. And then they also have different calls for if the danger's coming from above or below. So like if there's a snake coming up the tree, they'll have a call. If there's a hawk in the area, they'll have another call. So the birds, other species know what to do. They understand chickadee language, and they will respond accordingly based on the chickadee's warning call. So that's pretty interesting. So yeah, if you're a bird migrating or even foraging in the winter, you want to be in a flock because if sharp-shinned hawk comes by and you're by yourself, you're lunch. If you're with 50 other birds, you only have a 1 in 50 chance of being lunch, right? Because he might not get you. So that's why you see birds flocking up so often. All right, here's another one I like. This is the white-breasted nuthatch. Another one that's here year-round. They have a very distinctive call. And they're often on the side of trees like this. And they do catch nuts also. And here's another. Now this is a red-breasted nuthatch. They're what we call an eruptive species. Irruptive. So I think what that means is sometimes they're here in the winter, sometimes they're not. They will erupt from the north, from Canada, and based on the food supply. So if there's abundant food up north, they have no reason to come down here, so they'll just stay there. But if they want to find food, they'll wander down here. I think a few may have been seen in our area already, so maybe they're. We did see some in Cape May, so maybe we'll have some this year. This is a nice one. Actually, I think Cornell used this photo on their All About Birds website for a little while. I think at least I don't know if it's still there. So you can see this one got obviously the red breast, the very strong eye line. Very different than the white-breasted. And these have their call is similar to the white-breasted, but it's faster. And so if you hear it, it does sound a bit different. Now here's another one. Now this one I just kind of included because I wanted to show. This is a coastal bird more. There have been 1 or 2 sightings in Northern Virginia in the winter, but those are ones that kind of wandered. But this is the brown-headed, and their call sounds like a little toy boat. And they're always in flocks. If you see one, you'll see several more, and they're generally up in the trees, fairly high sometimes. And we were one of our members of the Northern Virginia Bird Club has a house in Chincoteague, and all 3 species of nuthatch came to his feeder at the same time. So that was pretty cool. That's when I took this photo, I believe. Maybe this one too, I'm not sure. But yeah. So those are the 3 nuthatches in our area. If you go out west, there's a 4th one called the pygmy nuthatch, but we don't get those because these birds don't migrate. They stay here all the time. Or well, again, the brown-headed and the white-breasted don't migrate, but the red-breasted will migrate. He'll erupt down south, down here. So here's another one, the cedar waxwing. Maybe you've seen this one. This is a beautiful bird. They'll fly around in flocks, searching for food. They're very nomadic. So they'll come in and eat all your berries, and then they'll leave. So it's beautiful. Got that black mask, yellow tip of the tail. Now there's a reason they have this yellow tip of the tail. This is interesting. It's because since they're always traveling in groups, foraging for food, when one of them finds a food source, the others can home in on that yellow tail and see it come in right away to share in the feast. So that's kind of a way they kind of keep track of each other with the yellow tip of the tail there. And they will sometimes they'll find berries that are a little bit churned or fermented, shall we say, and they'll actually get drunk sometimes. So I've never seen that, but that's what I understand. So yeah, these are if you see them flying around in a flock, they're usually in a pretty tight formation. And they do have a really high-pitched call, which I actually can't really hear much anymore, but younger people can. So here's another one. This is a pipit. This one's actually one I photographed in Utah or Washington State. This is in breeding plumage, but they're ones you will find in plowed fields often out in the agricultural areas in the winter, and they'll be on the ground foraging. So you can find these guys or flying over sometimes. So that's one. They look like a sparrow, but they're not. Here's another one that you can find in plowed fields, a horned lark. You can see the little horns there. Get the little black mask. See the horns, black mask, the yellow here. This band here. Again, this one is sparrow-like, but it's not a sparrow, it's a lark. So you can, well, I think they're larks. They're called larks. I'm not sure if they're technically larks. I have to check it out. But this is my only one I've seen in Fairfax County. So there you go. This is the one time it snowed last year. So yeah, again, these are pretty common in the winter. You'll see them in the in the rural areas more, but I've seen them. I've let's see, I saw them. I think I saw some in Leesburg once, so they're around. Very cute little guys. Here's one. This is the only thrush we're going to have. Again, it's brown, and but it's much larger than sparrow tends to be. It's going to have the streaking here like a thrush. And these actually don't breed here. They're only here in the winter. I've had one already this year that's come in. They have you can't see it on this picture, but it has a rufous tail back here. So there's going to be a contrast between the back, which is brown, and the tail, which is kind of reddish. You can see it a little bit there. So these are, like I said, are only thrush. Other times of year that spend the winter here. So things like wood thrush breeds here, but Swainson's and gray cheeked will be moving through. You could see one now. It's still tail end of migration. I think there's been a gray cheeked at Huntley Meadows, actually. So that's one. Here's the one. I mentioned this earlier, the brown creeper. So they're pretty interesting. They always go up. You never see them go down the tree. So they'll fly to a tree, they'll crawl up the tree looking for bugs or digging little eggs and little spider eggs, little insects out of the bark, continuously foraging. So they'll kind of climb up a tree for a while, and then they'll fly out and they'll fly to the bottom of another tree, and they'll go up that tree, and they'll just kind of go from tree to tree. And again, they have a very high pitched call, which if it's right next to me, I can hear it. But yeah, these are a winter only bird, but they're starting to come in. So I say a lot of these birds come in the late fall and then spend the winter. This is one of those. So these are small too, pretty small. But yeah, you won't see a sparrow doing what he does. Okay, here's another one. Here's our wrens. We do have these. This is all year round Carolina wren. These when I'm out doing a Christmas bird count, if it's dark out before we start, this is usually the first bird I hear call in the morning. So the tea kettle song. You've probably heard that in your neighborhood. So yeah, they come to feeders and very common in there, but they're kind of common everywhere. So and I think gram for gram, maybe the loudest bird we have. This is another one. This is a winter wren. Again, only here in the winter. We saw a few of these up north in Cape May. You can see they got these little claws that hang on. They almost look like little mice. They stay low, and they tend to like wetter areas. This was, I believe, Occoquan Bay, and they're just a little brown puffball, right? And, with this tail that sticks up. This little tail will stick up in the air, and they have a pretty intricate song, which you don't hear often, but when you do, It's pretty cool. And they have a call that sounds like a telegraph. It's kind of like tap, 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 very fast. So that's pretty, yeah, always nice to see these guys when you get a chance. So they can be pretty furtive. So look around logs, look around, you say wetter areas. They might pop out for you. And here's our kinglets. This is the ruby crown. Remember I mentioned the eye ring. These are really small. These guys are always moving. It's hard to get a good photo of them. They're constantly on the move, but always foraging for food. So it is ruby crown, but you don't often see the ruby crown. But here's a photo where you do see the ruby here. So if they're upset, they might they're a little agitated. The red may come out, and they'll see. You can see it. So they forage a lot, and these. So the other kinglet we have is the golden crown. This was in my front yard. So this one, these are more often in flocks, and you can see the golden on the crown. That's often able to see that, or you can see this head pattern, which is different than the ruby crown. See, the ruby crown is just kind of plain. This one has more of a pattern near the white, and the it's different. But if you can, usually you can see this golden crown. That's pretty apparent. It doesn't kind of disappear like the ruby on the ruby crown. So sometimes they're moving so fast, it's hard to tell which kinglet it is. You know it's a kinglet, but which one is it? So sometimes you got to look a little bit, catch them, see if you can see this gold or not, or the eye ring. That's usually what I look for when I'm trying to identify a kinglet. Does it have the gold? Does it have an eye ring? So this one does not. So the ruby has the eye ring. There, say that. All right. I've mentioned a few blackbirds. We mentioned the red-winged blackbirds before. These are cowbirds. This female cowbird confuses people, but it's really drab. It's got this big bill, very heavy bill. You can see the male has that too. Males are unmistakable, brown with black. These aren't as common in the winter. There's going to be a few around, but again, you can see the real strong sexual dimorphism. This is an interesting bird because they are nest parasites. They will lay their, probably a lot of you know that, they'll lay their eggs in other birds' nests, and they've done more research about them. So actually, they found that the cowbirds will kind of stay in touch. They'll kind of be in the area where the other birds are raising their babies, because somehow the cowbirds, when they grow up, they know they're a cowbird, and there's some evidence that they're actually calling to them and kind of reminding them they're cowbirds. So that's kind of interesting. And here's another one. Again, grackles. We have common grackles in our area. If you go to the coast, you'll get boat-tailed grackles, but we have common grackles. And they will often, sometimes you won't see them in the winter, but other times you'll see. One winter here there was a huge flock that was just kind of moving around the county, several thousand grackles together, just almost like filled the sky. It was amazing. So I guess every grackle in the area was in that flock. They're going to be a bigger bird. They have a long tail. This eye here. So sometimes people confuse the grackle with this next bird, which is the rusty blackbird. These are here in the winter. Rusty blackbirds have this big eye. You can see that really yellow eye and the black bird. This is the males. Females are a little, they have the eye also, but they're more brown than these. But you can see the grackle has a much longer tail. If you catch it in right light, it has this blue sheen to it. So you can see that. So always, and these guys are usually always in flocks, the rusty blackbirds, and they're declining. They're not really sure why. In fact, they encourage people to report rusty blackbirds because they're really trying to ascertain why their population is declining. Kind of odd. All right, here's one. This is another non-native bird, which is a European starling. You've probably seen these. So actually, in the right light, they're kind of pretty, but there's a lot of them. So once, speaking of a lot, I was once on the eastern shore, and I took on the eastern shore of Virginia or Maryland, there can be huge flocks of blackbirds. I'm talking, 10,000 birds or something. And this was one of those. And I was driving on a back road, and the birds enveloped my car. I had to stop in the road because I could not see anything. It was a blackout. And I shot this photo through the windshield of the car. So I happen to have my. So you can see a few flecks of red. These are red-winged blackbirds, right? You can see that. And just most of these are red wings, but there's other blackbirds in there too. So that was quite the experience. But they moved off pretty quickly. But I could not drive for a little bit there. So um, here's another one that we'll see. The goldfinch. This is what they look like in the spring and summer when they're breeding, but look what they look like in the fall, in the winter, right? Very different. They lose their yellow because keeping your colors costs you energy. So there's no reason to have your colors now. So some of these are male. The ones with more yellow are going to be males, and then you have the drabber ones are females. So yeah, they're very different. But you can see the wing bars. They still have somewhat of a yellowish color, and they are finches. So these are here all the time, but they will flock up in the winter more than they do other times. They have that when they fly, they have what I call the potato chip call. So it sounds like they're flying. It goes potato chip, potato chip, potato chip, and then they also have a whine they do. But often you'll just hear them fly over going potato chips. So it's a good way to find them. Plenty of them around usually. This is another eruptive bird. This is a pine siskin. This is actually Northern Virginia Bird Club, what we name our newsletter, the pine siskin, the siskin. So they'll come down. They are related to goldfinches, but they're much more streaky. So you see a bird, it's the same size as a goldfinch, but it's all covered in streaks. That's going to be a pine siskin. And they will often come to feeders. This one's at a feeder here. And based on the food source up in Canada and the boreal forest, that kind of determines if they're going to come down and visit us or not. Here's another one. This is one that's always here. This is the house finch. Got the big heavy bill streaking down here. Only part of it's red. That's the male. Also a house finch. This is the female though. Doesn't have the red on her, but she's got the streaking here. But got this finchy bill. So it's going to look different than a sparrow because of the bill, and this kind of shape of it is a little different than a sparrow. So that's one you might confuse. But they're going to sit up higher too, oftentimes, the finches. So here's another. This is not my photo, but this is one you don't see a lot. But again, if it's an eruptive year, they can come down. And this is based on the food source, once again, purple finches. And this one's different than the house finch. See, this one is pink, red all the way. It's redder, and the back is red, and all this area, you don't have the streaking like the house finch had. See the house finch? People confuse these a lot. They say, oh, is there a purple finch or house finch? So see, this one's not red down here, but the purple finch, red. All red, okay? And then the female is actually easier to ID. This I kind of shot through fog, but you can see this huge eyebrow here. So that again, it has the finchy bill and a big eyebrow, okay? And the heavy streaking here. So this is a purple finch. And seems like I see the females more often. I don't know. Maybe they're just around more. I don't know. But anyway, and then that's all I have. Thank you very much. This is the bluebird of happiness. He augurs the return of spring. And thank you so much.